Since you all really liked my video where I ranked all the rosters in every Mario sports game, today I am going to rank every character roster in all of the Mario Kart games. First up, of course, is the original Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Now, this one's a pretty solid roster, but if you remember where I ranked Mario Tennis on the Virtual Boy, that game had every single character that you see here except for Bowser, and I gave that a 2 out of 10. This one, I'm going to give a 3 out of 10, because if you think about it, Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo didn't have a lot of characters to choose from at the time that the later rosters in the Mario Kart series had the opportunity to choose characters from. The only other characters they could have added to a roster like this is maybe like the Koopa Links from Mario Bros 3, because that game existed at the time, and like Birdo and Shy Guy if they were taking characters from Mario Bros 2 if they wanted to as well. But that's about it. They did pretty well here, and Donkey Kong Jr. again carries the roster for me, so 3 out of 10. Next is Mario Kart 64. We have the classic. This one and Mario Kart Super Circuit are going to be ranked together because they have the exact same set of characters: Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, DK, Wario, and Bowser. You'll be seeing these core 8 in practically every other Mario Kart game going forward. It's a basic roster. I say it's a little bit less quality than the one we got in Super Mario Kart. In my personal opinion, trading out Donkey Kong Jr. and Koopa Troopa for DK and Wario is a slight downgrade for me. I know it might not be for you, but for me, it personally is. So for that reason, I'm giving this roster and Super Circuits a 2 on the list. They're a solid roster for the time being. Now, before we move on to Double Dash, I actually just want to give a quick shout out to the pre-release roster of Mario Kart 64. I'm going to rank this one as well, even though this isn't a final roster and we never got to play with this roster. If this ended up being the real roster, I would have given this a 3 out of 10 as well. Tied it with Donkey Kong Jr. and Koopa Troopa instead being replaced with Kamek in Wario. I think Kamek would have been a little bit more of a special character than Donkey Kong, and at the time, Kamek made their debut in the Yoshi's Island game, which came out maybe a year or two before this game released. So Kamek would have been a more cool / relevant, prevalent character. All right, now we move on to a big boy. This is Mario Kart Double Dash, and the first one to have a truly expansive roster, 20 characters, and they kind of needed to have 20 characters because this game, of course, had the gimmick where you were tag teaming with a character. 2 characters in one cart, 8 default pairs, again with the 2 characters allowed for more characters and combos, which made this game automatically better. The 4 set of unlockable characters, Toad and Toadette, and then Petey Piranha and King Boo. 3 of these characters made their first playable appearance in this game: Petey Piranha, King Boo, and Toadette. Toadette, this is her first ever appearance in any game ever, and that's not going to be the last time I say that for characters in a Mario Kart series. Petey Piranha and King Boo were bosses in Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion, respectively, both GameCube games, so it makes sense that these guys would appear as special unlockable characters in Double Dash. I love this roster. A lot of debutants here. A lot of great characters became mainstays in Mario Kart after this game. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10, so close to a 9 out of 10, but compared to future rosters, like, I can't really push this one over the edge, but it is an amazing roster. All right, next up, we have Mario Kart Arcade GP. This one had 11 characters. This roster is hard to see, but this was the character select screen. You can see there's 11 characters, the 8 characters that were in Mario Kart 64 and Super Circuit, plus 3 Bandai Namco characters: Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and Blinky. I'm a big Pac-Man fan, so seeing these characters in a Mario Kart game for me is amazing, and personally, I'm not a big fan of crossover characters in my Mario Kart games, but when it comes to the arcade games, I truly don't mind because they're more Mario Kart spin-off games. They're not true mainline Mario Kart games, and plus they were developed by Namco, so yeah, give Namco the rights and feel free to throw in characters, especially if they're going to be cool crossover characters like Pac-Man. I'm all for it. And because we got these insane cameos, I'm going to bump this up to a 5 out of 10. From the Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart Super Circuit roster, this is a couple points higher, easily a 5 out of 10 in my book. Now, next up, we got Mario Kart DS, and man, what an interesting roster. Those 8 Shy Guys are actually not playable in the main Mario Kart DS game. You can only play as those Shy Guys as the download play guest in Mario Kart DS. You have to be able to play the game with only 1 cartridge, and if you're the person playing without the cartridge, you are restricted to playing as a random colored Shy Guy. You can't even pick which colored Shy Guy you want in the standard cart, so it's very restricting. But if you own the game Mario Kart DS, you cannot even play as a Shy Guy. Regardless, I wanted to include them in the roster, but I will be taking all of that into account. I think it is a pretty strong roster overall, but not enough. Mario Kart Double Dash set a huge precedent with 20 characters, and then for the next Mario Kart game to just bring it down to 12 is a little bit underwhelming, though technically, again, we do have 20 if you count all the Shy Guys as individual characters. But I mean, we got some bangers coming here in their debut. Drybones and Rob. I love Rob. He's incredible. He's literally on my shelf over here, but not enough to make it one of the greatest rosters of all time, but it is still a very quality over quantity roster. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have Mario Kart Arcade GP2. This one released, I believe, only 2 years after Mario Kart Arcade GP1 came out. This roster has the same characters as the first one, with the addition of Waluigi and Mamechi, who's a Tamagotchi character, and I don't really think they do anything too crazy for me. So in my personal opinion, I'm gonna keep it at a 5 out of 10. Even though there's more characters, the characters we got aren't really quality enough to bump it up to that same level that Mario Kart DS has. Even though they technically have one more character than Mario Kart DS, it's just not enough for me, quality wise, for me to bring it over what we got in Mario Kart DS. Now we have one of the craziest rosters, at least in the mid to late 2000s. Mario Kart Wii came out and shocked us with a bunch of new characters for us to play with. 26 of them, 24 if you don't count the Mii and the Mii Outfit B, but we got a lot of debutants here. We got Baby Peach and Baby Daisy, Rosalina, Funky Kong, and Dry Bowser. A huge host of characters, and a lot of them are so cool. Funky Kong just breaking the meta of this entire game. Dry Bowser, I didn't even know existed. Rosalina, of course, from Mario Galaxy. So we got a whole host of new characters, and the returning characters they brought back from Double Dash was phenomenal. But let me tell you, this could have been a 10 out of 10 roster if they brought back Paratroopa, Hammer Bro, and PD Piranha, which were the pre-release characters but ended up apparently being cut from this game. If they were added to this game, it's a 10 out of 10, but they're not here, and this roster is not the best I've seen in every Mario Kart game ever. This is a 9 out of 10 roster. Next up, we're moving on to Mario Kart 7. And again, I had to modify the roster screen a little bit for you guys because there are colored Shy Guys that you are only restricted to playing if you are playing the game with no cartridge on download play with another person that has the cartridge. If you own the game, you can't play as one of the 7 colored Shy Guys below, but if you don't have the game, you are restricted to a random colored Shy Guy. The only difference is that the main Shy Guy, the red one, is now playable in the main Mario Kart 7. What I also think the red Shy Guy is playable in download play. Don't quote me on that one, but I do believe you can play as the red Shy Guy. This character roster is still pretty solid in my book. It's got Metal Mario. You know how much I love Metal Mario. We got a very questionable set of characters on the bottom right of the screen, at least of the main character roster above the Shy Guys. Honey Queen from Super Mario Galaxy, Wiggler, and Lakitu. I didn't ask for any of these characters. I know some of you might have, but I don't think I've met a single Honey Queen fan or a Lakitu fan. I could be wrong, but that's just not my cup of tea. I will always find it hilarious with this roster that Daisy and Wario somehow are unlockable characters and just Waluigi got straight up cut from this entire game. It will never make sense to me. That being said, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 roster. It has 4 more characters than Mario Kart DS, but I just think the characters we got versus the characters we lost kind of even out in my opinion. Next up, we have Mario Kart Arcade GP DX, and this one kind of shocked me. This has 19 characters, quite a few debutantes to the Mario Kart Arcade GP games, like Lakitu was never playable in a Mario Kart Arcade game before, neither was Bowser Jr., Baby Mario or Baby Peach, and King Boo was not playable, or Metal Mario, and of course the character that is front and center on this screen, the character that probably replaced Mamechi, is Don Chan, who's a character from the Taiko no Tatsujin games, and it's a fun rhythm game. I kind of like it, but it's such a weird addition. I gotta pick this character every time I play this game because, again, same as Mamechi, it's not gonna be playable in another Mario Kart game after this, so you gotta get your races in with this guy while you have the chance to. At least that's the way I look at it. 19 characters. Hackman is still in it. Too bad they got rid of Miss Pac-Man and Blink. Yeah, I really miss those characters, but these 2 Namco characters are still pretty fun to have. The rest of the cast is honestly not that bad. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Next up, we have a probably more controversial roster than one may think, but this is the Mario Kart 8 Wii U roster. When it finished all of its DLC, all the characters on the bottom row, Tanuki, Mario, Cat, Peach, Link, Villager, Isabelle, and Dry Bowser. Dry Bowser literally being the only one of those 6 characters that was worth purchasing both DLC packs. This was a pretty controversial roster just because it introduced 2 characters that nobody asked for. Baby Rosalina and Pink Gold Peach made their debut in this game. Pretty much all you can say about them. There's nothing important. but a lot of characters who appeared in past Mario Kart games coming back for this one. But of course, the main elephant in the room you can see is the Koopalings. Literally 7 character spots out of the 36, once 30 at the time before the DLC. So they almost took up a fourth of the entire character roster at one point, just them, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. If you're going to get the Koopalings to be playable, this is probably the way to do it for one of the Mario Kart games, but then maybe in the future, kind of do the Smash Bros style where they're just a drop down of Bowser Jr. But it's understandable that in a Mario Kart game, they have different weight classes, and Mario Kart 8 being the most technical when it comes to weight classes and most specific, makes sense why they're separate characters, but man, they take up so many character spots. Now, hear me out. Despite this game having almost twice as many characters as Double Dash, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I'm going to rank it a full point lower than Double Dash's roster just because the quality of characters we got does not compute. All the DLC characters are practically garbage except for Dry Bowser. I don't want crossover characters in a mainline Mario Kart game, especially the ones we got. Like, I'm not really a fan of Link or the Animal Crossing characters in a Mario Kart game. They're fine in their own games, not in Mario Kart. I'm not a fan of really any of the Koopalings besides Ludwig. Ludwig's amazing. I don't know. I love the blue hair. The whole row with the babies in Pink Gold Peach are just fine. So just a lot of characters that are more for quantity rather than quality, if that makes sense. Now, a roster that fixed most problems and will probably get bumped back up to being over Mario Kart Double Dash's roster is the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe roster. This is an 8 out of 10 in my book, tied with the Double Dash roster, even though having twice as many characters. Again, a lot of these characters from Mario Kart 8 Wii U stayed in Deluxe, so it's that quantity over quality thing. But we did get a nice addition of characters. We got the Inklings, which again, crossover characters I'm fine with, but the Inklings, they're new, so I'm okay with it. We also got King Boo, Bowser Jr., and we got Dry Bones. And we also got Gold Mario in this game. Gold Mario, you can't see it here, but he replaces Metal Mario once you unlock him. So those are the extra characters that we got in this game. They were pretty cool, but again, not enough to push it over to that 9 out of 10 sphere. A still solid roster nonetheless, and much better than the Wii U. Now, I debated putting this game on here because it's a VR game. It's Mario Kart 8 GB VR, but I'm going to add it anyway. This is like all I can find. When you go to an area that has this game on VR, this is what you're probably going to see, at least with like a Mario Kart like backdrop in the background with like some curtains or whatever. It'll look a little bit more flashy than this promo picture, but what I'm trying to get at is that there will only be 4 seats, and whichever character you get to play as is the seat that you choose. So technically, this game, Mario Kart Arcade GP VR, has only 4 characters: Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Yoshi. I know this is a VR game. It's more of an experience than an actual Mario Kart game, but I do want to rank every single Mario Kart game, so I have to throw this one on the list. This is a 1 out of 10 in my book. It's your basic characters. It's not a real Mario Kart game, so it was really hindered from the start, but I just want to throw this one just because. Now, similarly to Arcade GP VR, whether that was eligible for the list or not is questionable. Whether this game is eligible for the list will also be questionable, and it's a case-by-case basis based on your own opinion, but I'm going to include it anyway. This is Mario Kart Tour, and by far, this has the largest character roster, and I know a lot of you are going to chime in and say that a huge portion of this roster is carried by alternate skins and costumes, and yes, that is true. Even if you remove all of the characters that are alternate costumes and you remove all of the 60 plus Mii costumes, you will still have more original Mario characters in this game than in any Mario Kart game ever, I think, before Booster Course Pass. The super characters are fine until we get to like that start of the second row where we get Monty Mole and we get all 4 Hammer Bro variants. But then when we get to the high-end characters, all the characters in the purple/pink cards, like that's when we get some cool characters. Ice Mario down there is kind of fire. We also got Poochie, that's adorable. We got Gold Dry Bones and Gold Dry Bowser, Gold King Babam. Like, there's so many gold variants that it's beautiful. I love it so much. We got Dixie Kong, Nabbit, King Babam, Donkey Kong Jr. SNES is back. Hammock Meowser is in here. A Ninja Shy Guy. Petey Piranha is in here, and Wiggler made it here as well. So like, there's just so many incredible characters in this game. Oh, and let's not forget Pauline was playable in this game too, well before she became playable in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I know a lot of you are also going to say, well, you can't really play as all these characters because of the whole pipe mechanic. And well, that is true. If you play the game enough, you'll get enough rubies and you will be able to purchase these characters because they just all rotating back and forth in the shop. You'll actually be able to gain a lot of these characters rather quickly. You won't be able to play as the whole roster. I don't have the whole roster, and I've been playing this game almost every day since it came out, but it's still an incredible roster regardless, and it is easily a 10 out of 10 roster in my book. Another game that probably doesn't deserve to be on this list, but I'm gonna include it anyway, is Mario Kart Live home circuit. You got Peach, Toad, and Yoshi as ally characters in addition to the physical Mario and Luigi carts that you can play with. But I figured I might as well rank the roster based off the alternate costumes you get as well, because I'm not the biggest fan of alternate costumes, but when the alternate costumes are really the only option you can choose to customize your character, then it's kind of cool. Plus, you also have a silver suit and a gold suit of Mario and Luigi, plus their Doctor variants, and Dr. Mario is technically a different character than Mario and Smash Ultimate, so we're technically getting a couple of different characters here, even though they're all just alternate costumes. But some of these look incredible. You got the builder suits, the Santa suits, the snow suits, the American football uniforms, the chef suits, like they all look pretty great. I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 10. Call it controversial, but like I would rather play as a bunch of different Marios than like DK, Wario, Peach, Bowser. Like I would be playing as one of these Mario skins than any of those characters in the original 8. So give me this. This is perfectly fine for me. Last but not least, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the Booster Course Pass. I wanted to make this a completely separate roster than the launch version of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, just because there are just so many different characters that got added, and by so many, I mean 7, 8 if you want to count the Breath of the Wild Link. Just take a look at this. We got Birdo, Petey Piranha, Wiggler, Kamek, Peachette, Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, and Pauline as additional characters, and boy do they boost up the roster quite a bit. I am actually going to make this a 9 out of 10 roster. Not a perfect roster, but it is a brilliant roster so far. I think technically, if you don't want to count Mario Kart Tour, then in my humble opinion, we have not yet reached a point where there is a perfect Mario Kart roster that I should count as a 10 out of 10. This is about as close as you can get. We've got some incredible characters. I love me some Petey Piranha. I love me some Gold Mario, King Boo, Funky Kong, Dry Bowser, Bowser Jr., the different colored Yoshis and Shy Guys. It's amazing. But there's other characters on this roster that actually do more harm to the roster than good. Nuki Mario and Cat Peach, too stale for me. I think there's better alternate costumes. If you want to go with a Mario and Peach alternate costume, I think there were better options you could have chosen. The Koopalings, again, it's Mario Kart 8, so they're not going to take him out from the Wii U version, but I almost feel like they've run their course. If they were a drop-down menu of Bowser Jr., that would have been better. And of course, we can't forget about the bottom row with the characters on the left of the bottom row. I'm not a fan of the crossover characters. Obviously, the Namco games with Pac-Man are the exception, but when it comes to a mainline marker game like 8 Deluxe, I'm just not a fan of seeing characters outside the Mario series in this type of game. But that's me personally. But let me know what you guys think down below. Which games would you or would you not have included in this ranking? I wanted to go through every possible roster in the Mario Kart series. Which rosters would you have ranked higher? Which rosters would you have ranked lower? Thank you so much to my members. You guys are helping me out so much. It really means the world to me. Your support does not go unnoticed. It really helps me out, and I'm so thankful to have you guys. Also, thank you to all of you for watching. Subscribe if you are new. Stay all pro, and I'm out of here.